When it comes to my chocolates, I really like to hone in on this Filipino American aspect, right? I grew up in a Filipino household. My parents are immigrants from the Philippines, but I guess like Asian cacao as a whole is not utilized in the industry. So many chefs use cacao from South America, from Africa, that as an Asian American, Filipino American chef, I really like to highlight, Asian and primarily Filipino cacao.
Daniel Corpuz, thank you so much for making time for us. I know that you are hot is an understatement. I think everyone's just been texting me. We're so very proud of you, but I'm also even more proud to say that I knew of him even before the show because you got pitched to us by Carissa back in June. Did you know at that time that this show was coming out?
Back in June, I had known that the show was a thing, clearly, because I had been there. We filmed about a year ago at this point, but we didn't have a definitive date as to when it was coming out. And it was only just recently that they were like, hey, this November 26th, that's the day. And we were all excited as chefs that it finally came out.
Right. So November 26, 2021, how has your life changed since?
I guess on a surface level, my following has exponentially like skyrocketed. I swapped to a business account on Instagram, so I'm able to see my analytics, and like you just see kind of this like curve where it's like flat and then it flies up. In the past 2 days, I've received so many messages of like support and like congratulations from people from around the world, and a lot of whom are Filipino actually, being one of the only Filipino Asian American representation on that show. A lot of people have clearly connected with me in that way, and I've been very grateful for all the support that I've received.
So tell me about your chocolate journey. Have you always known that you were going to go this route?
If you asked me if I was going to be doing this 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, the answer would have been no. Because 2 years ago, my mindset was go into a restaurant, work my way up, climb the ladder, become a pastry sous chef, then become a pastry executive chef, right? But when COVID hit, I lost my restaurant job. And during quarantine, I was like, what can I do? And I was like, let me sell chocolates. That's something I've loved to do. And I did it well, clearly enough that a lot of like brands that I use like followed me and complimented my chocolate. And because of the amount of chocolate work I did during quarantine, that's what led me to the show. And the show has just solidified that this is what I'm going to do.
So you're one of those who actually benefited from the pandemic, right? Everyone's talking about how difficult the pandemic here was, but here you were actually able to find your path.
I mean, the food industry has been decimated, right, by the pandemic, and there are still restaurants that never opened, and people who have actually left the industry because of the uncertainty that the pandemic has brought about. But I've kind of flipped that script in my way, where I just like grinded and like kept going at it, right? And the amount of the fact that people have ordered even way back at my first box, and people are still ordering now, that has really like been the reason why I continue, is because people have wanted to try my chocolates, and I'm happy that they are now.
I also hear that because of the pandemic, a lot of people were kind of depressed, feeling low, and the chocolate really naturally gives you a high.
It does, and like I guess with my chocolate, it's not just the flavor, it's not just chocolate alone, right? It's not a chocolate bar, but they're artisan bonbons, right? So I actually hand paint them, spray them, and decorate them with colored cocoa butter. So not only are you getting the pleasing factor of it being, tasty, but looking at them, they're like, oh my gosh, they're so pretty. So you're definitely getting that excitement when you receive and open the box.
Right. Was there ever a time when you thought that this was like such a journey, you'd rather just quit?
I guess like recently, right? Because right now I'm still doing everything by myself, right? I'm the one who makes the product. I'm the one who sells the product, markets it, ships it, delivers it, everything, right? So not necessarily the fact that I want to quit, but I've seen now in the past few weeks alone that I need to expand at some point, and that like need for expansion is coming sooner than I would have anticipated. And as we enter the new year, I'm planning on maybe investing in equipment that I absolutely need, but also moving into a space that will accommodate the amount of production I'm doing, and potentially even hiring people, right? So like this is the show, and the demand for my chocolates has definitely helped and foster this business that, when you learned about me in June, before the show was even a thing, was only in its infancy.
Yes, yes. What makes your chocolates, what sets your chocolates apart?
I guess when it comes to my chocolates, I really like to hone in on this Filipino American kind of like aspect, right? I grew up in a Filipino household. My parents are immigrants from the Philippines, coming to the U.S., for myself, for to have a better life for me and my three younger brothers, like most Filipinos do, right? And in the industry, not many people utilize Filipino ingredients or draw inspiration from Filipino desserts. So that's something I want to highlight. And the chocolate alone that I use is from Davao, right? Some of my cacao nibs, I make bean to bar chocolate, which has this like absolutely distinct flavor and smell and aroma that I love. But I guess like Asian cacao as a whole is not utilized in the industry. So many chefs use cacao from South America, from Africa, that as an Asian American, Filipino American chef, I really like to highlight Asian and primarily Filipino cacao.
I love that. I'm just coming to mind. I had a dinner at the Waterside Inn
Mm.
in in the UK, and they were talking about how like this chocolate is from this and that and this.
Yep.
And South America is
Mhm.
almost like it's a Michelin rated restaurant, and I was like, what about Filipino chocolates?
Yep. Yep. And it's
Right?
like definitely like Filipino cuisine as a whole, like food industry wise. I think 2019 there was a big kind of like resurgence and push. Like I remember reading articles and seeing a lot more people. Like I remember going. I was in Atlanta at one point for a cake show with all my cake friends. This is like a very like American kind of like traditional restaurant, right? And as I'm looking at opening the menu, I see lumpia, and I'm like, wait a second, how is lumpia on this menu in a non-Filipino restaurant? So like 2019 had that resurgence, but I guess like it's kind of plateaued in a bit. So I guess this is my kind of like push to like let's bring more of Filipino industry into the world or introduce it to the world.
But I like that you're not only passionate about it, you're also bold enough to want to start your own.
Yeah, I guess like
Right?
yeah, I mean clearly so going into the food industry, I have a degree in business as well. Like my degree is both in baking and pastry and in business administration. And that's actually the reason that's what won my Lola over for going into a non-traditional career, right? But yeah, I mean, like business and being an business as a whole and being an entrepreneur is all about risk taking. And I guess I'm taking the big leap right now, and I've timed it well enough that the show came out. I'm forging ahead with my business, and it's doing well. So I'm happy that this is how it's
I
playing
love
out.
it too because not too many creatives can handle business,
And
right?
it's definitely difficult because like I've had colleagues and friends who also have their like small ventures and small businesses, and who've like been like, Daniel, wait, can you give me advice on this or that? Because you know people ask me, where do you get your prices? I'm like, food cost. That is the first thing that you have to kind of like analyze, right? And for anyone who's starting a business, I guess the first thing you need to remember is find a product that people will want, right? And once you have that, then you can start thinking about like, what are your costs? How much time are you like putting into this? And from there you can build out and flesh out your concept even more from there.
I love that. You're so inspiring. I mean, and I interview a lot of people,
Mhm.
and especially on Zoom, it's difficult to translate the vibe. It's
Mhm.
just so happy, like just so inspiring, so smart, so articulate. When you auditioned, I'm assuming that you auditioned for this show. How did you find out that you were in?
The way I got onto the show was a casting company that was working in connection with Netflix actually reached out to me on Instagram. They DM'd me super randomly. They had seen, I was posting so much chocolate work that they were like, hey, we have this new show coming up and it's all about chocolate and we think you'd be fantastic for it. Would you consider chatting with our producers and seeing if you could get on? And when they told me I got on, I was over the moon, primarily because they had told me that the main chef of the show is Amar Duchamp, who is this absolute who's an idol, right, in the pastry field. I was so excited to fly out, and like I told like clearly I could only tell my parents or my family immediately. I don't think they understood what this was going to
The
yield.
magnitude, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and now the show is out. Like they literally could not wait. That most of them stayed up at like 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time just to watch the show drop, and it was just fun.
What has this show taught you about yourself? It's 8 episodes,
Yep.
45 minutes each.
I guess one of the things that I've learned very much is I've always believed in this field of like food or pastry. Never stopped learning, but being on this show has highlighted that tenfold, right? I was the youngest contestant out there, or youngest chef on the show, and I'm going against seasoned vets who've been, executive chefs of hotels and restaurants and own their own businesses. So the fact that they went on the show also to learn, and I was, kind of like on that same level at that point. It was gratifying to be like, wow, I'm good at what I do, but I can continue to keep learning.
And you can also teach them a thing or two. I'm sure that they've learned from you as well. Which brings me to my next question, which I think is you're not going to answer either because it might contain spoilers. Your favorite episode?
I think my favorite episode is the second one because, again, without giving anything away, you see a lot of character development in me. And having lived through it, right? I experienced it, but now a year later watching it, that I think is where that's where I see myself like, wow, this is how I made my stand, and I think that's what made all the difference of being on the show.
I love that. Of course, I can't ask you who won, right? It's what, a package of $100,000?
Yep, the total value of the award was $100,000. 50,000 was in cash. Which is like amazing, right? That starts your small business. That starts your, you invest in your equipment, your packaging, everything. Another one was to teach at Chef Amari's school in Vegas. Another one was to like headline a marquee event in Charleston. And the biggest, like I guess one of the coolest things was Cocoa Berry, which is the chocolate company that sponsored the show, allowed you to manufacture 500 pounds, I believe, of your own signature chocolate. So again, no spoilers.
I'm getting goosebumps, right? Okay. All right. So where do you plan to take this? What's on the horizon for you?
Clearly right now I'm very focused on Christmas sales, right? Christmas is, as Filipinos, Christmas is September 1st, low key, right? The farol upstairs has been out since then. But yeah, so that's what I'm focusing on right now. But as we enter the new year, I'm hoping that sales this month do extremely well, that I'm able to gain the capital to invest in the equipment that I need and expand, like I said, this business that I'm building. Because I think when Valentine's Day comes around, like there will be another wave of people wanting to order. So I'm excited.
I'm so proud of you. Valentine's Day, there's also Mother's Day, there's also Father's Day, there's also Filipino American, Filipino Independence Day.
It's funny because literally the way like my menu, or like, because like I've been selling at this point for what, a year and a half, and it's like you said, it's all about like these events. So like though we're only in December, I'm already thinking ahead, where it's like the next one is it's Valentine's Day, then it's Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and of course as a Fil-Am, last year I also sold Filipino American bonbons. I'm going to do it again this June. And that's how far in advance I'm already looking.
When are you coming to LA? Please come to LA and visit.
I mean, like, so clearly I was there for the project, but it's getting cold here. So definitely I'd love to fly over and just skip the cold entirely here in New York City.
Love that. I'd love to host you, please.
Yeah, and then we can make some chocolates, maybe some confections, or even a pastry. We'll have fun with it.
But first, yes, we'd love to support you, Daniel. How else can our viewers support you?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just, brand awareness, right? This is still this brand that I'm building is still in its infancy. My Instagram alone, every day I check, I'm gaining 1,000 followers a day because of the show, which is crazy, right?
I followed you. I just followed you this morning too. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You're adding to that 1,000 for today.
Yes, I'm one of that 1,000. Yes, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's because this is such a new business, it's, I'm not worried about sales right now. I'm more worried about getting the name out there. And yeah, just like that'd be the best way. It's just either sharing what I do, share the show, honestly, right? The show alone, like, is a fantastic, kind of series. There's a serious kind of professional tone to it. And you easily fall in love with a lot of us on the show.
I've seen reviews, I've heard reviews. I haven't watched it in full, to be honest.
I see you have to watch it then.
But I am I would like to watch it with my daughter. She's
Oh
turning
yeah,
6, and yeah,
cool.
I'm sure she'll love all the chocolate stuff in there. But anyway, thank you. Yeah, when I followed you, you had 5,000 something followers. It's now 6,006.
Yeah, believe it or not, what was it, Thursday night before the show dropped, I looked at my analytics and I was at 2,600. So at this point, that's a net follow of what, 3.5K in 3 days, which is
Yes,
fantastic. Which is crazy.
that's awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. More power to you, and
Thank you.
we will pray for your success and support you all the way. Let us know, I hope this isn't the last time that we have you on the show.
Not at all. This is just the first of many, I'm sure.
All right. Bye.